But because we're doing this on Monday, it means that we can talk about House of the Dragon the day after it aired, which is really cool because this particular episode was fucking like there. Lots of things happened that this is what I love so much about Game of Thrones is that shit can happen in an episode and it isn't necessarily big battles and blowing up and shit. It's just really cool moments and you're just like, God, that's so fucking cool. Like that is, goddamn, that's so cool. And then that was one of those episodes last night.
Sometimes it's just people in a room talking and looking at each other very intensely, and sometimes things happen that I won't spoil yet.
Or there are dragons in a room, and then then you never know what's going to happen because
that was what I was trying not to spoil. But you know,
well, you can always assume there'll be dragons.
I mean, it is House of the Dragon.
And then you saw Deadpool and Wolverine, right?
Last night.
Okay, cool. Because I know we weren't able to see it together because our schedules just were like not aligning at all. So we're going to do a spoiler review of that as well. I'm going to try to keep this under an hour so that we can kind of keep things brief and nice and lean. If you could make sure you follow us on Facebook Live and YouTube and Twitch. Chris says, "May the force be with you, Daniel." Chris, I hope you're having a good night. We're having a good night, man. I was playing a gig earlier tonight, right before we started, and the tornado sirens started going off, and so we're like, well, I guess we're going because it's an outside gig, and these concerts are really cool because it we can have anywhere between 500 and 1,000 people packed into Central Park, and they're always very large crowds, and they're all 85. That's our demographic. It's like the 85 to 108 crowd. And I have never seen people that age move so fast when that tornado siren went off. And it wasn't even really it wasn't stormy or anything. It went off which, and you can always tell the people who live in the Midwest because they're the ones that weren't hurrying.
Yeah, it's just it's tornado.
We're just used to tornado warnings, and it's I was putting my horn away and shit, and everyone's like, "Hey, the tornado's gonna get you," and I was like, "Well, at least I'll finally get to see one." Jesus. So this week, I think one of these days, Monty and April and I are going to do Helldivers, and then there'll be Battlefronts as well. And then next Sunday, or this coming Sunday, will be the next episode of the Dungeons and Dragons season 2 episode whatever it is in season 2. We're still in character creation, but I think we're about to be out, and my character is badly deformed and very injured. And did you ever see?
But do you have your dragon?
No, but I have not given up. Did you ever see the old school Star Trek show, the original series?
A couple episodes, yeah.
You might remember that there's Captain Pike who gets grievously injured and is in a wheelchair and a melted face. I'm pretty sure that's my character. But
okay, that's all the Star Trek references we can do. We've hit our quota for this episode.
Yeah, we talked a lot about it last night, actually. And then we'll also do Battlefront throughout the week. Or I might have already said that. And then I think next week on Wednesday we'll be back to our normal scheduled podcasting things. So, all right. So let's start as we always do with House of the Dragon. Spoiler free thoughts, so that everyone has enough time to run away.
God damn, those dragons look good.
I love them so much.
If dragons were real, you would have dragons instead of dogs.
I would have both. And you know what? I would figure out a way to make sure that they got along. And I would have no control over that. They would just eat my dogs, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. After this episode, I think some of them just like to fuck around with things smaller than them just to see what happens.
Yeah.
And, and,
Yeah.
and you'll know what we're talking about when we like. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I think there are just some dragons that are like, I could obliterate your existence in the blink of an eye, but you entertain me, so I'll allow it, right?
Yeah.
And I want a dragon like that so much. I really do.
If I can go back a week
Mm.
for a moment.
Oh yeah, we can get into that a little bit because we missed last week's episode.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There was that one time where Rhaenyra made out with Daemon's old side piece.
Okay, so I thought this was kind of weird.
Yeah, so I was watching the scene and like she hugged her and I thought, oh, okay, they're sharing an embrace because they're both very emotionally vulnerable.
Yeah, and it's because she said something that Rhaenyra needed to hear from Daemon, and I don't know. You can tell that Rhaenyra has there must be a part of her that has some like imposter syndrome. So like having Melisandre, or not Melisandre, Mysaria say you should be the like hearing it from someone else who isn't her father, like that must have been like, oh my god. The thing that was weird for me is that like Mysaria had just been talking to her about some of her own personal traumas, like regarding her sexuality and her ability to produce children, and it was like, girl, you just heard her talk about the bad shit her dad did about her. Like maybe save the kissing for next time.
Well, it was like I was watching this and like, oh, okay, they're hugging, that's normal, and then like Rhaenyra sort of snuggled into her neck. I'm like, oh, okay, this is getting a little bit weird.
Yep, I knew.
I started kissing, like, oh, they fuck.
Yep. I knew as soon as she kind of like turned her head into her neck, I was like, oh, scissoring. They're gonna scissor. I guarantee it. What's really funny is the fact that like, imagine the emotional turmoil Jace must have over this, because like he has a father who wasn't his actual father, a random dude that hung out in their apartment that was his father, and then Daemon, who is his stepfather. So like, does he need another step parent? I think that there's going to be some drama between Jace and he doesn't even necessarily need to know. I don't even necessarily know if that relationship will go anywhere.
Yeah, well, I don't know of that, but there is certainly drama just by virtue of the sort of love triangle going on right there with Rhaenyra, Daemon, and
Mysaria. Yeah, I don't think Daemon will give a shit.
Probably not.
I think he'll get back to Dragonstone and she'll be like, I fucked another woman. And he'll be like, word.
Okay. That's kind of hot.
I was tripping balls the entire time at Harrenhal, so like,
yeah, I had a dream about fucking my mother.
Yeah, oh yeah, I fucked my mom in a dream, so everything's fine. So I think they're like, after this episode, all of the chess pieces are in position, and I'm pretty sure that this because the next episode is the season finale, and it's something like an hour and 10 minutes or something long. Some people are gonna die, and I think
how many dragons are gonna die?
I think Aemond and Vhagar die.
Ooh.
And okay, maybe it doesn't happen. I have a theory. Remember that I have not read Blood and Fire or Fire and Blood or whatever.
Neither have I.
I think Daemon and Caraxes kill Vhagar and Aemond. Because tell me how badass that would be.
I'm envisioning like Rhaenyra's 4 dragons going at Vhagar, and like maybe
he's
Vhagar
swatting them away. He's like, get off.
And then Daemon from the top rope comes down and just
and Caraxes just like wraps his long noodle neck around Vhagar's like, because he could probably wrap his neck like 2 or 3 times around Vhagar's neck, right? Because it's so long and noodly. Yeah. There's a funny line in last week's episode where Aemon's like, my uncle will be a welcome challenge if he dares face me, and it's like, you little bitch, you think he's afraid of you?
You know who you're talking about?
Do you remember the last time you saw him at that dinner with Viserys after he leaves? and you got up like you were gonna kick someone's ass, and Damon just stood there like, bitch, I wish you would, and you had to leave because you shat your pants. Like, you really think that Damon is afraid of you? I really hope that happens. So this is just one of those episodes. There are also a lot of unexpected things. So let's get into to spoilers. We'll run through some of the things that happened. So this episode was called The Red Sewing, and they start right off on Driftmark, on a beach, because the way the last episode ended. And I'm mentioning this because we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week. Rhaenyra has been confined to not doing anything because she's the queen and her life is too precious. And if they lose her, they lose everything, right?
Yeah.
So after she makes out with Massaria, a guard shows up and is like, I don't know what's happening, but someone is riding sea smoke. And Rhaenyra's like, oh fuck no, and just leaves.
Call my dragon.
Yeah,
let's get to the bottom of this.
There is no discussion with the with the small council. There is no, oh, your grace, you can't go. She's like, get my fucking dragon. I need to know who's doing this. So she flies over there, and this is right where the episode starts. And I should point out that this has an interesting layer to it, because if the dragon lore in this universe is to be believed, a rider and a dragon are bonded for life, and a dragon does not allow another rider unless their previous rider dies, right? Which means that Laenor must be dead, because that was his dragon, right? So either that is true, or maybe that isn't as strict a rule as the people think.
It might be something where Sea Smoke believes Laenor is dead.
They know. They somehow, apparently, they magically know.
Okay.
And because there's a weird, they're like telepathically linked in some ways. I'm not really sure. It could have just been that Sea Smoke was like, he's never coming back, and I'm lonely. So yeah. Also, April says, "Hey, Chris," and also Daniel. Hey, what's up, man?
Oh.
So she meets fucking Adam of Hall on this beach, and she's like, I'm gonna say this one fucking time, that is a Targaryen dragon. You are standing before the Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. Fucking explain yourself. And he's like, I have no idea.
Like, this dragon just showed up and said, hey, get on my back. And I was like, sounds good.
I was fishing, and this motherfucking dragon hunted me. And then it just cuddled me. And I don't know what the fuck's happening. And she's like, okay, that's a lot. What do you want? And he's like, I guess not. I'm on you're the fucking queen.
Yeah. And he bends the knee right then.
Yeah. And she's like, wait, nothing in Game of Thrones is this fucking easy. And he's like, it is today, motherfucker. Because like, what the fuck else am I going to do? Right.
Look, I have a dragon, but you also have a dragon, and I think you're better with your dragon than I am with mine. Yeah. So I'm just gonna keep this easy.
There's also this whole thing about, because Adam and his brother Alan, God, everyone's name are so fucking similar. They're both Corlys's bastard sons, and they both have different, like, Alan doesn't want people to know. Because he doesn't want to think that he's gotten to where he is because of like nepotism and shit, which is funny because like this entire world runs on nepotism, so I'm not sure why he'd have a problem with that. Adam just wants to wear nice clothes and have a dragon, I think. And he's like, you know what? You're the first person to approach me, and that's fine. I'm on your side. Like that's fine. So this great fucking moment where she looks at him and she's like, do you think you can get him to Dragonstone? And he looks back at Sea Smoke and he's like, I think. I have no fucking clue.
Maybe?
If I fall into the ocean, promise you'll come and get me, please. So there's a quick scene, like Alicent sustained an injury very similar to the one that Rhaenyra sustained in the first season on her arm. because they went, like, she and Helena went to go pray in the last episode, and someone threw a fish at her, and now she's the queen of fishes.
Yeah.
And she got cut. And so Alicent is...
Which, just quick aside, poor Helena. Like, she doesn't like people at the best of time, and like being in the middle of that riot must have been incredibly
well, she did the same. You might remember that in the first season when Daemon takes the top 2/3 of Valerian's head off, her first reaction was to cover her ears. Which would be a pretty like, for a neurodivergent person like that's on the the autistic spectrum, would be a pretty normal reaction, because it's like too much stimuli, you know. Yeah. She did the same thing when this was happening. She was just like, please just get the fuck away from me.
Yeah.
Alicent's at did you see the trailer for next week's episode?
I did not.
Aemond talks to her and it was like, it's time for you to get on Dreamfire, her dragon, and fucking join the fight. So
oh shit,
she's on my list of possible casualties for next week.
God, if she dies, I can't say what I'll do on the air.
George R.R. Martin's dead to you. Alicent's at an interesting crossroads because her son fired her in the last episode.
Yeah, she is kicked off the council. Yeah. She no longer has any control over any of this shit. And when she has spent the past couple decades being in the middle of
running the whole fucking thing. And you know what? Not just running it, like running it pretty well, right?
Yeah.
Because Alicent, you'll never have to convince me that she's a bad mom, because she's a fucking terrible mother, right? But she's temperate and fair, and maybe a little overzealous in her religion, but she isn't cruel, and she was a good ruler when Viserys was incapacitated, and had a wide body of experience, right? And
by the standards of a ruler in this sort of time period, like, she was pretty good.
Yeah. And in the last episode, Aemon's like, you're fired, you should be in the kitchen making sandwiches, pretty much. And
she's like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't raise you like that, but whatever.
Alicent's at
Daemon's like, you didn't raise me at all.
Yeah, you were. I barely know who you are. Yeah. So Alicent's at a weird crossroads because there is no place for her in King's Landing anymore. And like, there was a really neat conversation between her and her brother Gary, or what, Gawain, like, or Dwayne or something,
whatever,
where, because like, a lot of people didn't know that she has another son, Daron, who was raised as ward in Old Town. And she's like, okay, like, you were there, you kind of raised him, what's he like? And he's like, I'm not gonna lie, Darren's pretty fucking cool. Like, he's steadfast, and he's he's loyal, and he's good with a sword.
He plays the guitar really well. Girls are all over him.
Yeah, he's in a band, but he's also really kind. And Alicent's like, oh, thank God. And he's like, yeah,
at least I have one son who isn't a fucking raving lunatic.
Yes. And then he's like, yeah, it turns out that, raising a son away from King's Landing, can make them kind. And she's like, or raising him away from me. And I was like, that's probably it, bitch. Because you are a terrible mother. So she goes on a camping trip. More or less. And she's like,
takes her bodyguard, says, we're going to the woods. He says, all right, I'll get some other guards and your handmaid. She's like, no,
just
you and I are going to the woods.
Yeah, I like how during their little thing, he's like, so when are we going back to King's Landing? And she's like, I don't know if we are. We might just live on the land now. We're just feral humans out here in the wilderness. I hope you're okay with that. There's a neat little thing about, like, Jasper Wilde and Larys are trying to, like, they hear rumors about Sea Smoke's new writer, but, like,
Jasper's like, well, I heard it from my squire, who heard it from his brother, who heard it from a fisherman, who heard it from his friend, who heard it from his uncle, blah 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 blah. And Larys is like, are you not aware that this is a very tenuous chain of evidence here?
Yeah. What's really funny is that Larys Strong has a higher standard for evidence than the flat Earth people on YouTube too. And he's in the fucking Middle Ages. I like how he's like, okay, that's worse than Wikipedia. You can't cite that in a paper. So maybe you keep that to yourself. And so also Aegon is not only not dead, but is conscious and like might actually be like on the upswing. Might actually be on the mend.
I don't think he necessarily wants any of those three things because his life is pain right now.
Yeah, he and Laris have an interesting connection now, which is they're both cripples pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Which is what they would say. I would never say that. And Laris a couple of times has been like, look, we are the same now. Let me give you some advice about this. People are going to underestimate you, and that one thing can do more for you than you could possibly imagine. And he's kind of taken over Aegon's like he's like taking him on as a project because Aemond isn't falling for Laris' bullshit. No. And like in that last episode where he makes Laris think just for a second he's going to ask him to be the hand of the king, and he's like
no, God,
not
no.
you fucking idiot. Get Otto Hightower back in here. I heard what you did with my mom and her feet. Like that's never going to happen.
Gross.
Yeah. So Laris is like, fuck you. I'll get Aemon better or Aegon better, and I'll get into his ear. And when he gets better, granted, assuming that Aemon doesn't kill him, right? Yeah. If I were Laris, I'd be sleeping in that room, like on the floor right next to him, just to make sure. So in the Vale, you might remember Rhaena is tasked with keeping Rhaenyra's sons safe, Aegon and Viserys, and they are departing on a ship called the Gay Abandon, and they're going to go to Pentos, which is far away from the war, and they're going to go to some allies that Daemon and her mother Laena had when they were married. And so Rhaena's having a hard time with this because we know that she wanted a dragon, but when she was 14, the process almost killed her. Like that dragon almost fucking ate her. And she doesn't have a dragon. But we find out in last week's episode that Sheepstealer, if you might not know all the dragon names, Sheepstealer is one of the feral dragons.
He's just hanging around there, barbecuing sheep.
Yeah, he's apparently like hanging out in the Vale somewhere. And she was like, "What the fuck, man? I didn't know he had dragons up here."
Yeah.
And so they're like on their way to the ship, and Rhaena just like walks off into the grass to where there were like burnt sheep carcasses, and that's where we leave her in this episode. And I'm pretty sure she's gonna try to tame Sheepstealer, and
makes sense.
That would also be a massive addition to Rhaenyra's dragon fleet, because those feral dragons are all big. Like they're all big, like scary fucking dragons. So that would be really interesting. So either she's gonna tame it, or the other thing is gonna happen, which we're gonna now talk about now. So, okay. Well, hold on. Let's talk about Harrenhal first.
Okay. Oh God, I love this part.
Okay. So if you follow us, you know that we've been doing buzzed recaps of Game of Thrones up until season 2 of House of the Dragon started. And we are about to start, our next one will be season 6, right? Where we will meet a character called Lyanna Mormont. And I don't want to spoil anything for you, because all the buzzed recaps are for you, right? More or less. You and all the people who don't know what the fuck's going on in Game of Thrones. And we meet a character in House of the Dragon that somehow through time and space channels this character. So Oscar Tully is now the Lord Paramount of the Riverlands, right?
For those in the audience who don't remember, this is the dude who came when Daemon first arrived at Harrenhal, and he was like, "Hey, you should, smother your grandfather."
Your grandfather, yeah.
So,
put a pillow over his face, and then you'll be the boss. And so when that happened, like, he was timid and kind of scared of Daemon. He is not anymore, I don't think.
This kid grew the biggest pair of balls in Westeros.
Like within a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Like I'm not, maybe Alice Rivers is like pulled him aside and was like, look, he's actually a huge pussy. So stop being scared of him. So pretty much all the River Lords show up because Daemon's like, okay, motherfuckers, I want an army right now. And I wanted it weeks ago, and I don't know why we're all fucking around about this, but I
will take it now.
Yeah. And the River Lords are like, actually, we have some things to talk through. And Oscar Tully is out there. He's like 13 maybe, 13 or 14?
Like that, yeah.
Daemon thinks at the beginning of this meeting he's going to manipulate the fuck out of him.
Daemon thinks he's in charge.
Yes. Oscar Tully is in fucking charge. And he stares him down even. Like where he's like, I don't give a fuck that you're like 10 feet taller than me. Like I know what my position is, and I know all the people here, like in a fight, they're gonna be on my side.
Oscar Tully has such incredible political acumen.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, it's crazy.
He knows that he is in charge, that like through tradition, all of these lords are on his side.
Yeah.
He knows that Daemon needs him a hell of a lot more than he needs Daemon.
Yes.
So he doesn't have to put up with Daemon's bullshit.
Yeah. Like and he also is like he's fair. You know, he's probably going to be he's probably going to die or something. I don't know. But
he's like, look, your buddy here fucking raped and pillaged all around the Riverlands, and that's not cool. So I need you to kill that guy.
Yeah, chop his head off, please.
Yeah, and then we'll consider being your army.
Yeah. I like this. I like this moment where like Oscar like dresses him down, and Daemon gives him this look like, okay, I'll allow this. Like I see where this is going, and I have needs, like I have an eventual goal I need to get to, and this will get me there, and that's fine.
My favorite moment in all this is that like Daemon is kind of giving everyone the stink eye, and Oscar walks up to him and says, "Do you want your army or not?"
Yeah, and
he's like, "This is what it's going to cost you to get it."
Yes, and Daemon's like, "Fucking kids, dude. What is it with these kids?" And so yeah, he's like, so Will and Blackwood here did some really shitty things, and I need you to chop his head off. And Daemon's like, all right.
I mean, if it gets me my army, go, sure.
And so Sir Will and Blackwood gets his head fucking chopped off. And yeah. And later he has I think the standout scenes in last week's episode were a couple of scenes with a couple of hallucinations with Daemon and Viserys. Which, by the way, Paddy Considine is returning as like, you know, I guess ball tripping Viserys.
Yeah.
And like there was a really touching scene of something we didn't see in season 1, but we presume happened after his wife and infant son died, where he was there with the death nuns, and he was all alone. No one was there with him, and he was bereft and beside himself with grief. And like Daemon shows up and comforts him and embraces him and is like, I'm sorry I wasn't here. Like I'm so sorry. This was really shitty. And he has another vision of him after this Oscar Tully thing. And I was half expecting Viserys to be like, bro, you just got your ass whooped by a little kid, by the way. But Viserys asks Daemon pretty much, he's like, this crown is fucking heavy. The burden of this crown, you cannot understand it. Like, do you really want that? Because Daemon's been kind of like flirting with, maybe I'll just be king, and then Rhaenyra. And then
if Rhaenyra wants to be queen, she can be my queen consort.
Yeah. Someone else can be fucking consort. I fucking loved that moment, and I think of the last week's episode where like fucking what's his name, Simon Strong.
Yeah.
And he Daemon's like, you're supposed to call me king, and he's like, king consort. And which, by the way, even during this meeting with Oscar and all the River Lords and shit, like Simon is just so glad to have everyone over at his house. He's like, everyone's at my house, like there's a party, and then I'm gonna make peace after, and it's gonna be fucking great. All right, so at Dragonstone, I guess one thing we didn't get to talk about last week is that their little idea of finding people with kind of thin Targaryen blood to see if the dragons will accept them did not
work out so well.
Did not go particularly well for Sir Darklyn. And he's now, which by the way, there's a really neat but disturbing detail in that scene where the dragon riders who were immolated, they all apparently have handcrafted dragon glass daggers that they make themselves that are for the expressed purpose of slitting their own throats if they're burned alive by a dragon, so they don't like feel like, they don't like feel pain or whatever. Which I was like, God, that's so fucking metal. That is insane. So like Masari is like, there's no way you don't know this. Your father and Daemon and their dad and all the fucking male Targaryens.
And every Targaryen going back to the beginning of history. They all fucked around.
They've fucked their way all through King's Landing. And there is a whole population, there's a whole demographic of Targaryen bastards just hanging out in King's Landing. And their blood, like their Targaryen blood, is a lot thicker than fucking Ser Darkland's. And so she's like, okay, well, what are we gonna do? He's like, well, I'm gonna send a little message over. I'm gonna post on the King's Landing Reddit and be like, who wants a dragon? And that's pretty much what they do. And so, fucking Ulf, that doofy ass motherfucker from the bar, who by the way, wasn't even sure if the rumors about him being a Targaryen were true.
Yeah.
Right? He has been living his entire life telling people he's a Targaryen. But when it came time to step up, he's like,
they're like, hey, there's fucking boats down on the beach. You want to go get a dragon? And Ulf's like, I'm tired. I need to wash my hair tonight. My leg kind of hurts.
Yeah, they're like, you're a Targaryen. He's like, who can tell? Am I or am I not? I don't know.
Like, get your ass out there.
I like how his drinking buddies just talk him into it. They're like, you know what happens if you don't go, right? And Ulf's like, what? And he's like, you're a fucking pussy. He's like, oh, okay, god damn it, fine.
Shit, god damn it.
Also in the boats on the way to Dragonstone is Hugh Hammer, whose wife is not very pleased with this entire idea, because she's like, you could die, and then what the fuck am I gonna do?
Well, she's also not pleased because their daughter has died off camera.
Yes, I didn't realize that at the time, but I think I realized it afterwards.
She mentions offhand that like our daughter is dead in the course of their conversation before he goes.
Yeah. I guess I wasn't paying attention well enough there. It would make sense to me if they blamed Aemond for that, because
he's the one who locked down the city,
right? So he's on the boats in addition to, I don't know, probably about 40 or 50 other people, right? So
all of them with vaguely white hair.
Yes. So everyone gets to Dragonstone, and Rhaenyra holds an orientation in the hall. Well, first of all,
before she can do this, the fucking dragon priests are like talking to her in High Valyrian, saying, "This is fucking bullshit."
Nope.
Like, you're telling me these dumb assholes are fucking Targaryens, and you're gonna get like the dragons are gods, and you're gonna sully them with these unwashed masses? We're out of here.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
The Dragon Keepers Union does not approve, and we are now officially on strike. Goodbye, ma'am. And she's like, oh god, these fucking guys. That's the only language they know. They only know High Valyrian. They don't know like the common tongue, by the way. Like, those guys are so metal. So she steps in and she's like, okay,
some of you may die.
Yeah. In fact,
that's the price I'm willing to take.
In fact, I'm gonna be real honest with everyone here. Most of you are probably gonna die. I'm so sorry. I like that she's like pretty upfront with them about it. And she's like, you can't understand the power that you would have with this. It's like, you think you know what you're signing up for pretty much, but you don't know. You have no idea. You can't know until it happens. And everyone's like, fuck it, let's go. And she's like, all right, well, let's go to the dragon room. And so they take them to that like little dragon dock, like gantry or whatever.
Everybody meet Vermithor, the second biggest dragon in the world.
Oh, and man.
My favorite part
it's so good. It's so good.
Like, it's such a dark cave,
but
there's like little bits of light.
You can barely see something moving and shit. Yeah.
As Vermithor is walking forward, you see something just kind of slightly eclipse part of the light, and you're like, oh god, that's a big dragon.
Yeah. Vermithor is fucking massive. Almost practically as big as Vhagar, right? And I love this moment where Rhaenyra, the Dragon Queen, at first is humbled before Vermithor, where you can see on her face she's like, oh shit, that's a really big fucking dragon.
Yeah.
And Cyrax is like looking from the door of the cave like, Mom, what the fuck are you doing? And she commands Vermithor to, she's like, sit, and he puts his face forward and she touches him, and then Rhaenyra realizes the power that she has. She's like, oh yeah, I'm the fucking dragon queen. Of course I can tell Vermithor to fuck off, right?
Yeah.
And she's got this look on her face like, yeah, this dragon's we're gonna do some good things with this dragon. So she turns around and she's like, I'm gonna be real honest with you guys. I don't have anything else to say to you.
Fucking
good
go
luck.
Do the thing.
Good luck. See ya.
One of you is gonna get this dragon. The rest of you are probably gonna get barbecued.
Yeah. Fucking walks away, and everyone's like, whoa, God. She's the only one here that knows what. Yeah. So this dude with like a pretty terrible facial deformity, like what is like the first volunteer, right? Yep. And like Vermithor like gets in real close to him and he's like, what the fuck's wrong with your face? And then just torches him, right? Yeah. And then like 5 other people, they're like standing right behind him, right? And because he like this dude like tries to touch him, he's like, oh, I saw the queen do this, and he's like, nah, fuck you.
Nah.
And then just like goes crazy. He's like, no, you know what? I hate all of you guys. And he starts torching the whole room. All like her fucking guards get torched. People are getting thrown off the gantry. Like at one point, Vermithor's like, oh, I should probably start eating them. I'm probably hungry.
I'm a little hungry.
And so he just starts eating them. And so like Hugh Hammer and Ulf are both thrown off the gantry. And so they're on the ground in this fucking like dragon dock. It's like fucking Jurassic Park. It really is. People are getting roasted and thrown and eaten and shit, stepped on, and
so Ulf like grabs a torch and just fucks off into the cave.
He's like,
I don't want to be here. I don't want this dragon. I didn't want to be here in the first place.
He's like, I don't know what's further into these caves, but hopefully it's not another fucking dragon. And he just disappears, right? Yeah. Hugh Hammer hangs out with this woman, and
they like hide behind a rock.
Yeah. They have a neat like one shot, by the way, of him like they like follow Hugh Hammer running, and then they like swing the camera around and then up like 4 stories, because this thing is like Vermithor is like the size of like a 747. He's so fucking big, and he's just like tossing people up in the air and eating them and shit. And Hugh Hammer's like, oh my fucking God, what is happening? And so there comes a point where like Vermithor is going to eat this woman that he was like escaping with, and so he's like, you know what? No, I can't let this happen. And so he
like pushes her aside, jumps away, and then like Vermithor comes down, looking at him, he's like, "Fucking go ahead and do it. Fucking burn me to a crisp." And Vermithor was like, "Actually, you know, you kind of intrigue me."
Yeah, he's like, I kind of like I like your spirit, kid. You know what? You're good enough. And
I think this will work.
Hugh Hammer is like, all right, well, cool. We didn't have to kill all these people to find this out, but okay. So Vermithor has chosen Hugh Hammer as his fucking rider. Now, further into the fucking cave system, Ulf is just stumbling the fuck about, has no idea where he is. He steps into a clutch of eggs, like dragon eggs and shit, and he has that moment where like I was half expecting him to look into the camera and be like, he's right behind me, isn't he?
Because he hears a dragon like grumbling and roaring behind him. He's just like,
oh, yeah, and he turns around
and slowly turns.
He like so this is Silverwing. He like bumps him with his nose and knocks him over and shit. And there's this moment where like Ulf just drops his fucking torch and just like lays back and he's like fuck it.
I guess this is
fuck it. Like, just make it fast.
Go ahead.
Just please. Yeah. And Silverwing's like, you are one goofy motherfucker.
I vibe with that.
Let's do this.
You want to fly? Let's go to King's Landing.
My theory is that Silverwing thinks he's a dragon that came out of a clutch of eggs. And he's like, God, that's the ugliest fucking dragon I've ever seen. What the fuck?
But I guess you're my kid. Let's fucking go.
Yeah. So Vermithor has Hugh Hammer, and Silverwing, to everyone's surprise, has Ulf. Including to Ulf's surprise, and including, I think, to Silverwing's surprise. I think they're both like just taken really off guard by that whole thing. there's an interesting conversation between Rhaenyra and Jace. Jace has this like insecurity because he knows that he's not Laenor's son, right? He knows that his father was Harwin Strong, and his like reasoning here is, if anyone can have a dragon, like if any common person can have a dragon, when you're dead, my claim is meaningless because now everyone has dragons.
Yeah,
like that was my one way to secure my claim, knowing that everyone knows that I know I'm a bastard. And I had a nuke, but now like 4 other people have nukes now, so what the fuck? And Rhaenyra doesn't really know. She's just kind of like, sorry, like you got to win this fucking war, kid.
Yeah, like before we can worry about my succession, we need to make sure I have a position of power to pass on to you.
Yeah.
So we kind of need more dragon riders.
Yes, yeah, we have to prioritize. Like, you know, there are more pressing issues. We can, I don't know. Well, dye your hair, kid. I don't fucking care. like we cannot deal with this right now. Okay. King's Landing.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's hanging about. I think
Aemond is in this boring ass meeting with like half the small council.
They hear like a small folk from out the window scream dragon. And I like how like Larys and the other guy look at each other like, shit, maybe that sea smoke thing was true. Like, what the fuck, man?
Who knows?
Aemond looks out the window and there's a dragon that isn't his, that isn't any of theirs, just flying around King's Landing, and he's like, what?
Give me my horse.
Yep.
And give me to my dragon.
So it is Ulf having the ride of his fucking life.
He's having a great time.
I have never seen a man so happy before. This dude, like, he's barely hanging on to this fucking dragon, by the way. Like, he almost falls off of it like 4 times. But he doesn't care. He's like, if this is how I die. I really wanted him to like fly over his bar and have all of his buddies look up and him be like, hey guys, look, I got a fucking dragon. So Aemond runs to Vhagar, who needs like an entire forest to like lay around. And Vhagar like sticks her head up and she's like, is that a fucking dragon? And he's like, yeah, we need to go take care of this. And
Vhagar's like, baller, let's go.
Yeah, he's like, give me 20 minutes to get up and we can do this. So
stretch my wings,
Yeah. So Aemond on Vhagar chases Ulf all the way back to Dragonstone. And like I think his thought is like, I can't let this happen. Like, I have to kill this before this is a problem, right?
Yeah.
As he gets closer to Dragonstone, fucking Rhaenyra walks out where he can see her, and she's got like, I think Vermithor over one shoulder. Fucking I think Sea Smoke is somewhere.
Looking like she's about to drop the hottest rap album of 2024.
Ulf is on Silverwing, still cackling like a mad bastard.
Yeah.
And she looks at him like, I got fucking dragons now. Do you want to fucking go? And Aemond's like, Aemond for the first time, I think, since we saw him as a little kid, has fear on his face. And he's like, oh God. And he tells Vhagar, he's like, girl, we need to run the fuck away because
we're going home now.
Yeah. And so they do a fucking J-turn and they go back to King's Landing. And Rhaenyra's like, yeah, fuck you, you fucking kid. Wasn't there one other scene that
the part of Alicent's camping trip is like she goes swimming, and for a second I thought we were gonna see a suicide here.
Yeah, it had that vibe. Yeah,
it had that vibe, and she also had that scene an episode or 2 ago where she was in the bath and like put her head under the water for a little bit. And
yeah, there's the Corlys and Alan.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And well, Corlys and Adam. So Corlys, okay, so like Adam immediately bends the knee. When they do the dragon orientation, I noticed that Adam's like hanging out. He's got like a new cape and shit. He's got like new threads, and he's like, I'm a fucking dragon rider now. Fuck you guys.
When he first gets to Dragonstone, he like, I guess the servants show him into his new room, and he's looking around like, oh, this is like, nice.
Damn, yeah.
I never had paintings on the wall before.
Yeah. Is this porn? Are these paintings of people fucking? Like, what the fuck? So Corlys
walks in.
Yeah, I like how Corlys walks in. He like crosses his arms, and he's like, good job, kid.
Yeah, you did all right.
See you later. Yeah, I think that I'm sure that. So Corlys was a self-made man, right? I think that he sees that in Adam, where he's like, and there's also this unspoken thing where they're like, Adam knows that he's Corlys' son, and then Corlys goes to talk to Alan as well, who's like, so we've got this project we need to work on. It was to get all the dragon seeds to get Dragonstone, and he's like, I don't. Admittedly, and I'm sorry about this, I don't know much about your mother and about her parentage, but like there is a chance like that you could go and get a dragon. And Alan's like, I'm sea and salt, like why the fuck would I? Like I like being on boats. And that also, Corlys is like, damn, all right, yeah,
I respect that.
And like this entire time it's like, Corlys, your heirs are right in fucking front of you.
Yeah.
Like, drop this bullshit about you being ashamed of, like, Rhaenys is dead. And even before she died, she even said, like, stop hiding these fucking boys. This one guy's fucking, he's as hot as you are, Corlys. What the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Like, stop hiding these kids away on boats. Make them something. And I hope he does. I hope he's like, you know what? You guys are like, you're the closest thing I have to family now, other than Rhaena and
Bela.
Yeah. So, yeah. Next week is going to be a fucking sight to behold, and I would start making your list of I would start making your betting pool, because I think we're going to see some serious character deaths next episode, and some dragon deaths too. It's so
because we know all these dragons are dead by the time Game of Thrones starts.
Yes, or at least they're not around. I don't know if like
I guess they might have fucked off.
But... I don't care what happens in the show. In my headcanon, Caraxes walks away from the war like unharmed, and like goes over to Old Valyria and like hangs out there for the rest of his life, just peacefully.
Okay.